right, thank you, everyone. With that, we'll move on to the roll call of members.
Mayor Gentry.
Present.
Jane Taylor.
Present.
Bill Stoner.
Present.
Dick Robertson.
Present.
Alan Milburn.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. With that, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. Were there any special minutes we had to approve, or we're all caught up on those? Okay, so just our previous meeting from April 9th, I believe.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
One thing, Tanya, I wasn't at that meeting. I think it's listed on the minutes that
Oh,
I was
okay.
there. Maybe you want to.
I will make that correction.
Just happened to see that on my way up here.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I should ask if anybody had any edits. So, Bill, will you make a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
We have a motion to approve as amended. All those in favor say aye. Oh,
Aye.
Second. Second, Alan, sorry. Sorry. Getting back to swing of things.
We'll start ayes at this end.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Motion and the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, there we go.
Took care of that, didn't we?
Hopefully that's our thing we have to do tonight. All right, thank you. Next up is our department head reports, and the first item is the police department report. Chief Wormuth.
Good evening, everybody. Did everyone get a chance to check out my singing at the Little League? It's on our Facebook page.
I did.
Great.
It's going to be hard for you to live that down, Chief.
Yeah, I did my best. Let's just put it that way, and I'm not going to quit my day job anytime soon, and nor am I ready for The Voice, but I did try. During the period between 4/10 of 2018, today's date, the Lebanon Police Department responded to 639 calls for service. A total of 27 citizens were arrested for the following crimes. Wanted on a warrant, 9. Drug offenses, 7, 4 being for marijuana, 3 for meth. Theft, 3. Domestic battery, 2. Disorderly conduct, 2. Driving while suspended, 2. Operating while intoxicated, 1. And leaving the scene of an accident, 1. A total of 12 handgun permits were issued by our office. During the week of April 16th through the 20th, the Lebanon Police Department hosted a crisis intervention team course. This course is designed to teach officers how to handle and assist citizens that are suicidal, mental, emotional, or in some sort of personal crisis. We were fortunate enough to enroll 7 officers into the course. Those officers are Kerry Clanton, Ryan Williamson, David Edwards, Justin Knox, Justin Fuston, Aaron Carlson, and Josh Walker. This is great training. It really comes in helpful on our department. Also on today's date, we had a department-wide defensive tactics training course was conducted. And for the next 2 days, we have staff from the Child Advocacy Center and Child Protective Services coming to LPD and training LPD on proper reporting and documentation of child abuse cases. On Saturday, May 5th, the Lebanon Police Department will be hosting a recognition and commendation ceremony for police officers, firefighters, and medics that went above and beyond during the March 2nd Indian Springs shooting. This ceremony will be held at the Herman B. Wells Community Room at Lebanon High School at 4 p.m. This ceremony will honor the bravery and fortitude of members of the 3 emergency services that came together that fateful day. We encourage the public to attend and honor these brave men and women. So often the fire department and the EMS are overlooked and things like this. When that scene went out, we've always joked with the fire and EMS because protocol is that we have to secure the scene before they come on. Well, when the fire department and EMS responded to this call, they asked, is the scene safe? And they were told no, it was still a hot scene, yet they came in anyway. I'm very proud of Boone County EMS. The scene was not safe, so we had 3 more medics volunteer and jump on the trucks for a total of 7 that came to the scene. They knew the scene was not safe, and Deputy Melville's daughter, Monica, will be one that's getting an award too. She jumped on the truck knowing the scene was not safe and came in anyway. And same way with Chuck's people. We're going to award them commendation bars also. They did an outstanding job, and I invite the public, I invite this board and the city council, of course, to come to this. Again, we're recognizing bravery. That is all I have today.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief?
Yes, got one.
Yep, go ahead.
Chief, on that, the crisis intervention training, is it just for a few, or is that everybody?
We had members from probably 6 or 7 different police departments from all over, even the Indianapolis Airport Police, St. Vincent's sent some of their own security up. There were Zionsville officers there, Whitestown officers there. There were also some mental health workers going through this course. We had a course, there's probably about 40 people packed in our classroom.
I was curious, is all your staff going through it or just these 7 or?
No, we have probably almost 60% to 70% of our
That's
staff
right.
are now trained in crisis
Okay.
intervention. It's something that eventually we're rotating all officers through.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No.
Any questions from the public? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tyson.
And we'll be sure to make sure we get the information out for May 5th.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next up, Fire Chief Batts.
Good evening, everyone. I am pleased to announce that tonight I will be stating the lowest number of calls of service that I've seen since I've been the chief of the Lebanon Fire Department. I would like to say it's due to our amazing fire prevention program, but I don't think that's the case. The numbers are half or a third of what they normally are. No explanation behind that, but that's always a good thing when your calls for service drop. So since the last Board of Works meeting, Lebanon Fire has made 87 emergency calls for service, logged 206 training hours, performed 52 commercial inspections, installed 2 smoke detectors, and we participated in 1 public education event. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize Deputy Chief Mike Baird. He's our chief inspector, and he's just done amazing things with our inspection program. He just gets out into the community, talks with business owners, woos them, and gets them to comply with the necessary city ordinances. And I just can't say enough about the job that he does, along with Shift Inspector Lieutenant Lanny Mitchell. Just very proud of them, and we're definitely moving the needle in the right direction. On Saturday, April 7th, Lebanon Fire held a free car seat clinic. 12 new car seats were installed free of charge, and 18 existing seats were inspected. I would like to thank Lieutenant Lanny Mitchell for heading up this program and his leadership with it. It's just an excellent community outreach program that Lebanon Fire offers. Over the next 2 days, 210 firefighters from across the nation will descend on the city of Lebanon for the annual Fire Department Instructors Conference. You may have heard of FDIC before. The Boone County Training Tower will host 2 classes over the next 2 days, and LFD will be assisting with logistics. So those firefighters, the 210, will be staying in our city, some of them visiting our restaurants and our community as a whole. Starting last week and running through the end of May, the Whitestown Fire Department is hosting a vehicle machinery operations class. This is extrication for large vehicles, farm equipment, semis, buses. And this is a certification that we use. Several of our firefighters currently have it, but over the next month, we'll be able to certify every member of our department at the operations level for vehicle and machinery operations. So that's just a great certification that we'd like to thank the Whitestown Fire Department for heading up. As a reminder, for the city, the 9/11 Memorial dedication will be Saturday, May 5th at 1 p.m. at Station 11. That's Lebanon Fire Department headquarters, located at 975 Lasley Drive. We'll also be giving station tours and serving light refreshments.
Okay. Looks like I have a busy day on May 5th. Any questions from the board?
No.
Any questions from the public for Chief Batts? Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jeff.
Chief. All right, next up, Parks Department. John?
Boy, if you've seen Tyson's Harry Carey impression, you need to see it. Just saying. Yeah, we had our opening baseball and soccer seasons. They're going in full swing now. Just be mindful of all the kids around, so please be careful going through the parks. The baseball team finally got off the losing trek they were on and finally winning some games, thank goodness. All restrooms are open now for the season. They'll be open every day from 6 to 11 till we close it in the fall. The Daddy-Daughter Dance was a huge success. I want to thank Lebanon High School for the Herman B. Wells Community Room. Also thank Jennifer Pope. Her and her staff did a wonderful job with all the snacks and gummy worms. They seem to be really big this year. But the dads were outstanding. There's over 300 that attended the dance. Also, Richard Carson did a great job with the DJing, so I want to thank those people. On Saturday, June 9th, we will be hosting a co-ed sand volleyball tournament. Registration opens May 1st, and the cost is $90 per team. Packets will be available for the park at the park office, and there you can look at our Facebook page to see the details. Looking forward to that. That'll be our first annual, so we're excited about that. Already have quite a bit of interest. Co-ed softball registration is now open. You must have at least 10 players for your team. The cost is $375 per team. Packets are also available for pickup at the park office. Our Mother's Day event, Cupcakes and Canvas, will be Saturday, May 6th at 1 p.m. at the Her Cabin, $20 per person. Registration, or register your mom and kids at the park office. Lap swim is still available at the high school Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Kiwanis annual fishing derby right around the corner. The derby will be held June 9th at the Hot Pond, and finally back at the Hot Pond. It's only been about 5 years, I guess, so we're excited to get it back there. And then, of course, the Mel Canyon Classic coming up June 2nd and 3rd. Looking forward to that. Joe LePage was out there today with Mr. Ottinger to look over the electricity and all that. So we're getting excited, and quite a bit of people visiting the park now, getting ready for that fast track that we're going to have out there. That's all I had.
Any questions for John from the board? John, I had one for you, and I forgot to mention this earlier when we had our meeting. We had talked about opening the pond at the former Conservation Club property in the spring. Have we been able to kind of look into that to see if we can do that still?
That's still waiting to hear back from the insurance company. There's still quite a few areas that are really pretty scary around there, and we'll go before the park board and make sure that they're okay with everything. Once we do that, yes, we're hoping to have some kind of fishing down there during the weekends and nights, something like that.
Okay, great.
Also, if there's anybody out there that has any input about our pricing, John Lastly and Diane Scott and myself are sitting down this week to go over the pricing for our rentals. And if there's any input from any of you or any of the public, we'd like to hear from you. We haven't raised our prices in quite some time, not that we're going to, but we're going to discuss each of our rentals, and something that we haven't done.
And that's for the shelters and for the different
all
things
the
like
shelter rental. We haven't really talked about pool pricing. That will probably come up, but we haven't raised our prices on that at all since we opened it either. Still the cheapest thing in town, $5 entertainment all day. Can't beat that. $4 for kids. But we'll be discussing those, so reach out to John Lastly, Diane Scott, or myself, and then we'll present it at the next park board meeting.
Okay. Any questions for the public for John? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up, engineering.
Good evening, board members. Updates for tonight. East Street, happy to report that we did start paving last Thursday on East Street. We got 2 good days of paving. We were shut down today because of the weather, and that weather also shut down the local asphalt plants too. So even if we wanted to try to brave the rain, I know it wasn't as heavy as we thought it might be, but there was no option to pave today. But we did get a good 2 days of paving done. We've got the base and intermediate levels of asphalt complete from essentially the bridge over Prairie Creek south to about the the intersection of Chicago Street, and we will work to resume that further to the south. We probably have another 2 days to get all the asphalt base and intermediate levels done down to Washington Street. Obviously, other work that's been done the last 2 weeks, all the stone was fine graded to be prepared for asphalt. Obviously, that had to result in some closures of intersections that had previously been temporarily passable. So like North Street, Washington Street, we've had to close those just because we've had to remove those stone ramps to be ready for pavement. But that continues. Sidewalks and ramp work, that continues. Essentially all the sidewalks are done north of Fordyce, and a good percentage of them are done south of Fordyce. Talking about the walks and the paths on the west side. and that work continues. They did work today in the rain, getting sidewalks formed up and ready for paving, or ready for pouring, excuse me, and they'll attempt to pour some of those walks in tomorrow. So work ongoing for the next, before the next meeting. Obviously, we hope to have all the asphalt done with the exception of the final surface coat. We'll wait till after all the trees and sidewalks are done before we put that final coat on. But before the end of the week, if the weather holds out, we should have a drivable surface again. Obviously, sidewalks will continue, and we are anticipating the prom this weekend at the Armory. So that area of the street has been paved. All the sidewalks, all the handicap ramps are in place. The area around the Armory was prepped for sod, and sod is scheduled to go down tomorrow. Then we'll begin cleaning up some of the construction staging area that's in that area, and have already coordinated with the street department for street sweeping. So prom should go off without a hitch. I'm not for sure how far south on East Street you'll be able to drive, but getting to the Armory and the walk-in in front of the Armory, there shouldn't be any disruption there. Switching gears a little bit to the north side of town, actually outside of city limits, the Northern Interchange Feasibility Study, we had our public hearing, or excuse me, not public hearing, we had a public planning workshop that was held on last Monday, the 16th, where we discussed the NDOT process for undertaking such an endeavor, the planning that's involved, the constraints that NDOT looks at, the scoring system that NDOT looks at, and how they consider and evaluate potential interchange reconfigurations. And that was really the crux of the meeting, was to hear people, was to show them the constraints that we will be faced with. The meeting, nor the study, is ever intended to reach a consensus on exactly where or how the interchange will look. But it's more about supplying information to the state so that they can make that decision. Ultimately, that decision lies with them. So our study will lay out 3 or 4 different locations and configurations for interchanges and potential interchanges, and lay out the pros and cons, but will not go so far as to say this is the interchange that we want to build. That will be left up to the state. All this is really is a study that is generated to show the good and the bad and the ugly with any of the intersection modifications. And that study is due to be complete sometime in June, late June. Jamison Street bridge removal, obviously the bridge is complete. They're just working on the sewer pipes, the drainage pipes in the intersection of Jamison and Busby. I would report that after looking into those pipes, we had some real unknowns there that we weren't for sure what was under the intersection until we got into construction. We feel it best to reconstruct all the storm sewer pipes in that intersection and provide new outlets to the creek. The Stormwater Board that was absorbed by this board had previously approved $7,706.16 for that expense. But now that we've looked at redoing the whole intersection storm sewer system, and we are sharing this cost increase with the county, but the cost is now around is a little over $15,000. It's about an $8,000 increase that we'll have to bear for this additional storm sewer work. I just got some documentation on this late last week, so just updating you at this point. There'll be a formal change order, I guess, if you will, be the appropriate term that will ask you to execute at the next meeting.
Okay.
But just an update. Downtown. Excuse me. We held our pre-construction meeting last Friday, the 20th. Redevelopment bonding for the project was closed on the 17th. Lease rental bonding is scheduled to close this Wednesday, the 25th. We're expecting to issue the notice to proceed on the 26th, this coming Thursday, and anticipating a start of construction on Monday, May 7th. Realize that's the day before the election. We've also talked with the contractor about trying to stage some of that initial startup work so that we can get folks that have to get to the courthouse in there. I guess it goes without saying that they'll have to maintain access to the courthouse at all times, but we really want people to be able to drive to the courthouse and drive to the southern entrance to the courthouse as we get through the election cycle. And it's also, that week is a heavy traffic week for the courthouse for tax payments that are due the following week, so we're going to be cognizant of that and work with our friends at the county to make sure that access is not just open, because it's required to be open, but make sure access is as easy as possible for everyone. We are working to schedule a groundbreaking event for that occasion. Look for more details to come on that one. The contractor, which is White Construction, will be contacting all business owners in the project limits to set up some lines of communication. They will supply dedicated phone lines so you can reach their superintendents, reach the construction inspection coordinators with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert, and also reach myself. They will also be establishing a email blast list that will go out to all those residents, updating them on changes in schedule or schedule updates on a weekly basis. We will also look to post those updates on the city engineer's Facebook page so the entire public can see those. But we're trying to communicate as much as possible with everyone so they can see what's happening throughout that project. Later in the meeting, we've got a few actions related to the downtown project we'll be talking more about later, but essentially we're asking for approvals and or authorizations for the final addendums that came in through the bidding process, the construction agreements with White Construction, obviously pending the bond closings. I've provided you copies of the post-bid requirements that the contractor has submitted, and then there's also some invoices from the county per the county agreement that was executed last week. We were required to pay legal fees. We're also required to pay any engineering fees that the county would like to have to ensure compliance with their systems and protection of the courthouse. So we'll go over more of that later, but just know those are coming. Construction inspection, we're still just hopefully in the final stages of the legal review. I know we've had a series of back and forths with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert and our legal counsel, and we should be wrapping that contract up shortly. But do not fear, they are already on the job and hard at work, making sure that our interests are taken care of. And then I said it earlier, but I would also point out that both the Boone County Commissioners Agreement and the INDOT Agreement were both fully executed last week. Other projects to talk about are PASER study, our pavement roadway asset management plan update. That is kicking off this week. They will look to start on the 25th, so that's Wednesday. I want to let everyone know there'll be a vehicle driving around town rather slowly. It'll have a nice clear logo on the side of it that will say USI Consultants. This is somebody that should be there, but from time to time with these studies, we will get calls saying, hey, why is this black truck driving around the block over and over again? Well, that's why. So just let everybody know there will be a black Toyota Tacoma, clearly marked with USI Consultants on the side, but you'll see that slowly moving throughout the city over the next week as they collect that data for that study.
And so, Kevin, just real quick, just people watching home, what do they look at when they're doing that PASER stuff? Yeah.
You know, it's actually a pretty neat process. Similar to we're all familiar with Google Street View. Very similar to that, but this time the camera is pointed down at the asphalt, pointed down at the roadway surface. So they're actually creating video footage for every mile of city streets within the city, about 100 miles, both lanes. And so they will use that footage to then rate our pavements from a scale of 1 to 10 on what is failing, what is ready for minor maintenance issues, what is good pavement. So that study will just slowly take video of all streets. We will get all those video files that we'll be able to link to our GIS system, so we'll be able to see those. But that information is just gathering data that they'll use to generate essentially a very large spreadsheet, giving all the pavement ratings for every road in the city and helping us to prioritize a list of construction projects and how we will spend funds related to our motor vehicle highway and local road and street funds to resurface streets.
Great, thank you.
Oh, I should also say that study has to be updated every 2 years. This keeps us eligible for state funds related to road maintenance projects, so that's why we're doing it this time. Our previous study was dated 2015, so it's time. We're just a little overdue on getting it updated.
What's this costing, Kevin?
I want to say it's in the 20 to 25 range. I apologize, I don't have that in front of me right now, but it's not an overly expensive study.
And that's just coming out of the standard NVH budget?
Yes,
Yep.
yes. Yeah, that was funded out of, we put that project under contract last year, funded out of NVH funds last year. So we encumbered that money going into 2018. Grant Street, another update there. We haven't talked about Grant Street in a while, but we will be talking more about that later tonight as the board will be considering an agreement to effectively cancel and release our contractor on that project. If you might remember, this was a project that was tentatively scheduled to start last spring, but was delayed due to sewer utility easement acquisitions. I would also remind everyone that earlier this year we received a notice of award for a grant for federal highway funds to reconstruct that street in a more complete fashion. The original project was really a sewer project, a drainage project, water mains, and then a street overlay. This new project that we've received federal funding for will be a complete street reconstruction. Similar to the East Street project, we'll take into account all utility infrastructure, all drainage infrastructure, a complete reconstruction of the roadway, curbs, and asphalt, as well as parking, lighting, and pedestrian infrastructure. That project is funded through federal funding for fiscal year 2022. So it'll be a little while before we get started on that. But so tonight we're kind of closing out the old project and again marching forward to the new, more expanded project. Over in that area of town as well, Indianapolis Avenue Phase 2, right-of-way acquisition is nearing completion, which is with a scheduled deadline of August. And that will free up utility relocation work, which will start later in the summer, and then hopefully wrap up before the end of the year. That project is also scheduled for bidding in January and construction of spring of 2019. So,
Okay.
I'm sorry that was a lot, but
No, it's good. A lot of good projects going on, a lot of good efforts being made. So, any questions for Kevin from the board?
Kevin, North Street, what's the plan for North Street? How are we going to fix that?
North Street.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It looks like Beirut over there in the 80s, I think. But the contractor, Atlas Construction, who did the water lines underneath North Street, will be milling the high spots on that road to get it ready for a pavement overlay. We had Steve Day with Triangle Asphalt walk that last week and mark up all the high spots that he's concerned with. So Atlas is going to take care of getting those areas milled down to Steve Day's liking so that he can go ahead and resurface that. That resurfacing was a project that he was under contract to do last year.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any questions from the public? Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Planning Department. Ben.
Good evening, board members. Planning department operations over the last couple of weeks, we are starting to see a pickup as the weather gets a little warmer and people have some time to do construction projects. So we did complete 38 building inspections over the last couple of weeks. 25 permits were issued. There was a new construction single-family home permit in there, and then a number of other projects as it relates to residential projects. On the code enforcement side, we're still doing a lot of trash and debris complaints. Our grass and weed complaints haven't really started yet. The grass has just started growing just in the last couple of weeks. But as you see on our sheet, that there still are a lot. We're doing a lot on the vehicle, junk vehicle, unregistered vehicle complaints there. Makeda's going out at least once a week and really targeting specific areas of the community to do that. So we are seeing those numbers climb, but we're getting a lot of them taken care of as part of this process. That's been a really beneficial thing to do. In terms of projects we have going on, I know I've mentioned the comprehensive plan over the last couple of months. So we have identified and invited our steering committee to participate in that process. This group includes 16 different individuals with varying backgrounds and expertise, and we really feel are going to be real beneficial to this effort. Their first meeting, as I mentioned last time, is taking place just a little over a week from tonight on May 1st, so that's next Tuesday evening. So activity is really going to pick up on that process once we kick off this first meeting, and there'll be a number of ways for public to be involved in that. Planning Department permit software, I'm pleased to say that that process is wrapping up. We're going to start a soft rollout of that over the next week or two. What I mean by that is we've kind of tested it as much as we can without really using it, so that our staff is going to start internally using the software over the next week or two just to see if we uncover any other issues that need to be corrected before we fully roll it out to the public. So we are, I know even from Makeda, from a code enforcement perspective, she's probably been using it for 2 months already and really gotten it to her liking. We're really starting to use the permitting side and inspection side now, just starting this week. Community members, as they come in our office, will notice we've got a little computer kiosk set up right inside in our lobby. So they'll be able to just sit right down at the computer. They'll be required to create some registration information to the system, but then they can submit their permits sitting down in our office, or they could do it once they have their registration complete. They can do it once they get at home. So once we fully roll it out, then it's really going to be very convenient for the community and all of our applicants and customers we typically see to be able to submit things to our office. But we are starting that soft rollout now just to make sure we've got all the bugs worked out before we really have our customers start using this system. But that is taking place as we speak. On the Lebanon entrepreneurial building / co-working / development space, or whatever the name is now, there are no significant updates since the last Board of Works meeting, but we have had some follow-up meetings with a couple of the potential bidders. We did go visit a space over in Noblesville from one of the potential bidders just to see what that looks like and see what his kind of process looks like. So we have done that, and then I also just very recently met with a component of the design team for another potential bidder with their architect and another one of their team members, just to kind of bring them up to speed on what we're doing and what we're looking for from a design perspective for the space, and let them walk through and just uncover any potential issues as it relates to the structure itself and just evaluate some of their options. So that is moving forward, and we do expect to see a handful of bids on the building, so it should be interesting to see what those concepts look like and what the bids look like. So we're looking forward to that. And one item I didn't add, as I mentioned before, we are definitely seeing kind of the construction season picking up now, and I think it's going to be a pretty exciting next 12 to 18 months on it from a construction perspective. Certainly Kevin talked about a lot on the public side. I think on the private side we're going to see a lot too. We had our first retail development filed for Plan Commission approvals that we've had in a long time. There'll be about a 25-acre development at 32 and 65, the southeast corner, that will involve outlots that could include family sit-down restaurants and other things like that, as well as a fairly significant office component to it as well. That is the site where there right now are 2 very old industrial buildings that have been sitting vacant, or I guess not vacant, but being used as storage for a long time. So those will be going away over the next few months, and we'll be seeing a new commercial retail development come up in its place. That's a pretty exciting project for us. And then in addition to the two residential neighborhoods that already received approval, they'll be starting construction later this year, and there's a number of other exciting projects we hope to announce over the next couple of months as well. So it's really I'm pretty excited about what we're seeing coming forward.
Thank you, Ben. Any other questions from the board?
No.
Any questions from the public? Okay.
Thank you.
Ben?
All right, next up, Street Department. Larry? Oh, Craig, sorry. That's right, Larry's out today, right?
Yeah. He's trying to bring good weather back, hopefully. Just a reminder, for the street department, our annual spring cleanup will be this Friday and Saturday, which is April 27th and 28th from 7 to 4. This is for city residents only. Bring a copy of a driver's license and utility bill. There will be a small fee for electronics, that's normal, your e-waste. There is no hazardous material or roofing materials or tires or brush allowed. Due to the bad weather, in our yard debris week, we extended that. We've been out a couple weeks now getting up yard debris, but we'll be out next week, weather permitting. And we actually started last week actually bringing out hot mix for our potholes. So we will continue that. We got pretty much a big list done, so we're in pretty good shape. Other than that, really don't have anything other than I will pass along that on April 28th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Boone County Highway, that is going to be a hazardous waste drop-off where you can take tires, antifreeze, brake fluid, that kind of thing out there. And that is, again, from 9 to 2.
Do you guys consider, is paint hazardous, or is that?
If it's oil-based,
okay,
they consider that hazardous.
Okay.
If it's latex, what Ray's usually suggests is open the lid. You can use sand or cat litter and dry it up, and they will take it in their regular trash.
Okay.
The reason why they want it dry, years ago, they had some problems, people putting it in there, they were crushing it, it was getting on the road and on cars.
Yeah.
So that's why they did that.
So oil-based paint though needs to go to the hazardous.
Yeah, that's considered hazardous.
Okay, great.
That's all I have.
Any questions for Greg from the board?
No.
Questions from the public? Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Communications, Community Development, Joe LePage.
Evening, everyone. I wanted to update everyone on our next apps and issues for the month of May, coming up on May 9th. We know the time, we don't know the location. We rotate breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're on the breakfast portion of the program, and so we know the time will be 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., but we're not sure of the location just yet. You can stay tuned to the city's Facebook page and the city's website once we have secured the location and, of course, the food option. Speaking of food and other items, coming up on May 4th, may the 4th be with you. Lebanon City Markets, first one of the season. It's hard to believe that we're rolling it out. The weeks and months go by. Friday, May 4th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. That location has changed from Main Street in downtown to its new location, the Lebanon Downtown Co-working Development Property. And that's right off Lebanon Street or 39. And parking is available. It's a stone's throw away from where we are right now. It's a great location for those who want to just pull off the main drag and park a bit, walk around and buy those items, and then get back in their cars and head along their merry way. We'll have other things there as well that'll be attractive for families and those that have young kiddos to play as well. Again, that's coming up on Friday, May 4th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Our newsletter will be coming up and be released on May 1st. If you have any information you'd like to have publicized free of charge, info@lebanon.in.gov is the place to send that information. If you can give a brief description and also a logo if you have one or picture, we'll be able to work with that and add it to our website and keep everyone updated on different events going on around our community.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Any other questions from the board? No. Questions from the public? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, and last but not least, Stormwater Department. Dave? Got you covered, Dick. How you doing, everybody? Let's see. We've had 6 calls for service. Usually those are during the rain, or if there's a storm drain collapsing or something. Weekly inspections on all of our properties. A lot of them are wrapping up, but like Ben said, we're getting ready to kick some more off, so we'll be busy again with that. We did have to repair one drain. We call it repair, but really it's a total rebuild usually. Put in a new box and stuff. I think that was on North Street, North and Ann. And we just continue to clean the catch basins when it's storming and before the storms, trying to keep the roads unflooded. And that's all we got. Any questions for Dave from the board?
No.
Any questions from the public? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes department head reports. We'll move on to, actually, board to indulge me. There was something that got left off the agenda that I want to do first, if you guys don't mind. Excuse me. It was on the agenda, and then we did some edits, and this one somehow got taken off. But this was a street closure request from Tom Melville with the Boone County Sheriff's Office. Tom, you want to come on forward, and we'll handle that one first.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to come before the board. I'm here to represent the Boone County Sheriff's Department. I could never fill the shoes of Sheriff Nielsen, but I am better looking than he is. So we'll just leave it at that. Again, this year, the Boone County Sheriff's Department will be hosting a memorial service It'll be on the south steps of the courthouse on May 15th at 10 a.m. We, last year, asked for a closure of Main Street between Lebanon and Meridian Street, and we would ask that same request this year. Last year, we included the Garrison flag. Last year, the Zionsville Fire Department supplied that for us, and this year, Lebanon Fire Department will be supplying that for us. We'd like to ask for closure for the road from 9 a.m. till 12 noon. That gives them 1 hour to get it set up. It actually gives them 30 minutes to get it set up. I require that everything's set up and ready to go about 30 minutes beforehand so that we're ready for folks as they come in.
So Tom, question for you.
Yes, sir.
How tight are you guys to the south side of the square?
Pretty tight. It's the largest area. The north side of the square has all of the noise from the air conditioners and stuff. East and west side are very small areas, so it really is our best side. And
So
you asked because?
Well, so I don't know if you were caught it maybe during the engineering report, Kevin. So that's going to be right in the middle of us starting construction on May 7th on the south side of the square.
And you're starting, no, I couldn't hear most of
so,
what was going on.
Kevin, I don't know. I mean, I know we're still kind of working through what our plan is on how we handle that.
Yeah, that's,
But because you need the street closure for the fire engines that come in, right, to carry
Correct,
the flag.
yes, sir.
I hate to say it, but I think that's going to be pretty difficult. They're trying to maintain. I talked about a minute ago about access for voting, making sure that we can vote before we tear up the road. And then there's also another point that the commissioners have asked about making sure that people can park on the south side of the square. So they've got easy access for those that might need a little assistance to get into the courthouse to pay taxes through the 15th. But all that might be is that we'll leave one lane open and the parking spaces on the north side of the square until the 15th. And the south side of Main Street will probably be taken out sometime on the starting on the 7th. So
On the south side.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about it, Tom.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, no problem.
So I know the other areas are tight, but
Chief is here. If we cordoned off the parking spaces on Meridian Street on the west side and set the fire engine up there with the Garrison flag and brought the color guard in from there, are the sidewalks going to remain?
Yeah, the only construction will be on that south side.
Yeah.
From May 7th through July 20th.
Okay.
So if we could do it on Meridian or Washington, there's no problem at all. On the south side, though, I would say you're not going to have much room, and you're going to be in the middle of a construction zone.
Street-wide?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But if the sidewalk is still going to be open?
The sidewalk and from the the wall around the courthouse and to the courthouse, we're not touching that at this point. Eventually, we are reconstructing the wall around the courthouse. But with this, at this stage of the project, the only thing we'd really be doing is tearing up Main Street because we're redoing the water infrastructure underneath.
Okay. We can make that work.
on Meridian, should you make that work?
Okay. Well, we probably.
Sorry to throw you a curveball, but
yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. We probably will still hold everything on the south side.
Okay.
Just because that's the biggest area that we have.
Right.
But we can bring the color guard in under the Garrison flag off of Meridian.
Okay.
And we can do it with those parking spots, I think, without any road closure. We good?
Okay, great. All right,
Thank you
so
very much.
yeah, so that's what.
All those interior sidewalks too that go around up close to the courthouse, those are going to stay.
Yeah.
So there'd be, if you walk in up to that sidewalk and walk around, there's not going to be any problem there
Okay.
to get over to that large sidewalk on the south side.
Excellent.
Okay.
As long as we're talking about that, any issues with us working with the contractors for that 30-minute time frame that we do the memorial service?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll work with them.
Excellent.
And in fact, we need to talk more a little bit about making sure all your access is the way you need it from a sheriff department perspective for access to the building throughout construction. So,
Excellent.
we're keeping the south entrance open at all times, but we know that there's other security issues that
Sure.
we want to make sure we're addressing as well.
Okay.
Are you gonna have speakers or anything?
We'll have a sound system, yes.
Here's my point. The whole thing would, the whole thing would actually be better on the north side. I know you want it on the south side. That construction is gonna be there. All those barricades are gonna be there. Everybody's gonna be there, and that's gonna be a total mess. And I would rather see a memorial service done somewhere where that's not there myself.
Well, we will absolutely look at that.
I understand the air conditioning units, I understand that, but we've also had speaker systems out there on the northwest corner or the northeast corner with the air conditioners going, and you can still hear people talking and doing the things they need. But I really believe you need to be on the other side of the square, away from that construction, so we don't take any chances of anybody. And it will look so much better if it's away from that construction site.
Well, tonight's the first time I knew there was construction, so.
Oh, I understand.
Well, we can, I would say we can make it, we can either have it closed Meridian or have it closed Washington, and then they can decide where they want to hold it.
No, I would rather say Washington is the best one to close. Get them away from the construction site altogether.
I think so too, but I think if they want to have it where they want to have it, they can make that decision. But from our perspective, we can say it's either Meridian or Washington, and then they can decide what they want to do, and
Well,
they can.
I think so too, but I think
we
ought to
definitely
tell them
will
it's gonna be
evaluate that, yes.
Washington, because if you close Meridian, if you leave, you get everybody away from Meridian Street because the construction is still going to go on. It may shut down
The
for
Meridian-
a little bit.
We shut down the intersection of Meridian.
Yeah, and there's going to be just people.
Meridian
It's not
site
like
is not a good place for us with the ramps to the basement.
Okay.
So it would, north or south are our options really. So we absolutely will reevaluate that.
Okay.
I would say
completely
the
agree
south
with
is out of the
Dick.
question.
I can't guarantee you what kind of backdrop you're gonna have up against your memorial service
Right.
on the south side. It's gonna be a construction zone. If you can move it to the north and accommodate on the north, that's gonna be your best bet for a service that I think would be very similar to what you did last year.
Sure, yes.
A little less space, I don't disagree with you, and it's away from the public entrance. I don't know how important that is, but
And we
that
could-
north side is gonna be a lot less, it's
What's
gonna be
the
undisturbed.
what's the
at
date
that
again?
point.
May 15th.
May 15th.
And there has been no public,
After election,
no public
after
information
taxes,
gone
so-
out, so we're in good shape.
Yeah. Well, the traffic flow of the courthouse will be slow, but
Yeah.
still the north side would be better. We could close off the parking on both sides of the north side, and then they got the whole block. To me,
That'd be marvelous.
Tom, we can do it whatever, we can do it in either or motion.
If
or
you do
we
it
could-
either or right now, that
Okay.
would be great for us.
And then
It
we can
gives
just
us
kind of
some
circle back
options,
and-
but it looks like north side is the
Okay.
best for us.
Okay.
you want to get away from the construction as
Sure.
much as possible. Don't want to be nowhere near that with
Okay.
that service,
Okay.
my opinion.
And that would allow us to close the parking spaces off as well.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Do we want to make a motion for that?
I move that we approve the street closure request on May 15th from 9 a.m. to noon,
On
wherever you decide.
Either or,
Will that work?
I think
south side or north.
so on
For the
either,
motion.
Yeah.
So am I just to put in Meridian or Washington?
based on the Boone County Sheriff's Department's decision.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
A second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, Tom. Sorry for, it's 1 year,
No
and it's going to
problem.
look amazing next year, so, sorry. Okay, that concludes what I had for there. So, going back to, yeah, Bill did. Going back to old business now, so we have, first item up is Grand Street Project Settlement and Release Agreement.
I think you all received the settlement lease agreement from legal counsel. And I've touched on this in the department report, but this is the final agreement to terminate our contracts with Great X, was the construction firm. So this is to close out that contract. It does provide for some compensation for real expenditures that they had up until the point that we canceled the project. And that is for a total of $72,015.15, which is to be split between the Board of Works and the Lebanon Utility Service Board.
Right. Okay. I know we were sending a lot of documents on that. Any questions for either Rob or for Kevin on that from anybody? No. So, Rob, just to clarify, we would need a motion to accept the settlement and approve the release agreement?
Yeah, and authorize you to execute.
Okay. So, any further discussion from the board?
No.
Okay. Would entertain a motion to accept the settlement agreement and then approve the release agreement contracts subject to my execution.
I make a motion that we approve the Grant Street project settlement and release agreement with the mayor's signature.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that's approved. All right, and next up, Kevin, the downtown and Big Four Trail update and contract approvals.
Yes, alluded to this as well in the department report, but what we're asking for tonight is your authorization to execute the construction contract that will be entered into between the city and White Construction. So we would, a couple things that we need to wrap into this. There were some addenda put out on the bidding process that effectively amended the project from what you previously had approved. So we need to ratify those and roll that into this contract approval. And then ultimately what we'd like to do is that would be pending legal review and also authorize the mayor to execute that contract once it has been released from legal review. To go through the addenda, I sent all this stuff to you. I will admit it's hundreds of pages, and most of it is unreadable, unless you're an engineer that likes to read technical specifications. And I don't even know engineers that like to do that. But I will give you sort of a highlight of that, and if you ever do want to look at those addenda documents, the first 2 pages really kind of gives you a summary of everything that's in there, and then that's followed by literally hundreds of pages of backup information. But addenda 1, relatively administrative. It was the disbursement of the pre-bid conference meeting minutes, disbursement of the pre-bid conference sign-in sheet. It dispersed some geotechnical information and reporting related to the locations for the signal poles for the state road intersections. It provided some pictures of the old steam utility tunnel that goes between the courthouse and the jail. That will be taken out of service with the project. It clarified a couple of line items in the bid tab that were previously left out. So it added a line for pavement removal, added a line for a specific type of manhole that was in the construction documents but not listed out in the bid tabulation. It provided some locations for construction staging, and those are a lot that is associated with the police department, the lots associated with the former Estes dealership, so that they can use that for construction, employee parking, as well as construction deliveries and staging. It detailed out some additional information on the light and signal pole requirements. and basically clarified the finishes, the materials, the standards for those designs. There were 4 RFIs, requests for information, questions, formal questions provided by contractors that were answered. But basically, those were clarification type questions. The schedule was also modified just to provide further detail on what was going to be required by the contractors. The instructions to bidders was modified to better define what substantial completion would mean. The bid form was updated just to remove a section called Changes to Work, which is more of an architectural related section, kind of a standard boilerplate part of the specifications that was removed. And then there were some unit price breakdowns that had to do with breaking out prices property by property. We no longer needed that to be in there based on review with legal counsel and bond counsel. We were able to break out those unit costs into those project-specific areas with the data that was provided. So we didn't ask the contractor to do that. It made the bid form a lot simpler for the contractors to respond to. It went on to streamline some of those unit price requirements. And then the last, but certainly not least, there was some supplementary condition modifications that, again, better defined what we were expecting from substantial completion and how bonuses and penalties would be administered on the project. And there was also a section of the supplementary conditions that was related to the utility tunnel between the courthouse and the old jail, and that was removed because it was a duplicate. There were a couple of additional supplementary conditions that were added in there related to some manufacturer's requirements for installation that we had to add into the specification, as well as a provision that requires the contractor to provide us with what we would refer to as attic stock. They have to give us a pallet of pavers that we're able just to store for future repairs. Again, there was a revision to the drawings that further defined the base and alternate bid, and some additions and revisions to the maintenance of traffic plan. That was Addendum 1. Addendum 2, again, relatively administrative, not a whole lot of substantive changes, but we do want to make sure that this board was aware of those and authorizes these changes to the construction documents. We did hear a lot from contractors about the aggressive nature of the schedule and their fear related to liquidated damages associated with each phase of the schedule. So we listened to them, and we did make a change here, and instead of charging liquidated damages or rendering bonuses for each of the first 3 phases, we combine those 3 phases. They still have to do them on the required schedule, but bonuses and damages only apply to the end of phase 3 and then the end of phase 4. So we further defined that. We did provide for a contractor option, again, related to listening to what the contractors were saying, a contractor option that allowed them to provide their own construction schedule and sequence and an associated deduction if we would allow them to set their own schedule. We did not agree to that. It was only about a $200,000 savings, and for the interest of building the project we want to in terms of in phases and minimizing the impacts to the downtown and the downtown businesses, we didn't feel that that was a substantial enough savings to take that change. Let's see, moving on, there were RFIs 5 through 13. Again, questions submitted by the contractors. Some of those did require some document changes, but for most part, those were just clarification type issues. We added a specification related to number 5 for cured in place pipe. This is a lining system that lines old sewer pipes to increase their performance. There was some additional information provided on RFI 11 that detailed out the courthouse railings and the courthouse wall. The railings are really only in one place that what the project will affect, and that's That's at the accessible ramps on the east side of the courthouse, so we had to better define that for the contractors. We had some requests for substitution for signal poles. We provided an acceptable substitution for the traffic signal poles in the state intersections. There was also a request for substitution on the lighting products. After much conversation with the mayor and our design team, we felt we'd spent a lot of time choosing the light poles that we wanted in our downtown and didn't want to provide an alternate because there just wasn't anything close enough to what we had chose that would make sense. So there were no approved equals provided for lighting. There's a detail about how to connect trench drains to alleys was added. The list of schedules was revised, again listening to contractors that still thought the schedule was aggressive. We moved out the end date of the final phase, phase 4. The base phase 4, which is from State Road 39 to West Street, was moved from June 30th to July 31st. And phase 4A, which would have been the alternate bid to construct all the way to Patterson Street, was extended from 7/31 to 9/30. Again, we did not choose that alternate, so that's not really material at this point. The bid form was modified to provide that deduct for that alternate schedule that I spoke about earlier. There was a section on construction waste management and removal. That was stricken. We're just going with the standard requirements associated with NDOT specifications. We didn't need that specification, so we removed that. And then we get into the supplementary conditions. Again, we clarified some things on the courthouse and the walls and the railing connections. We clarified that miscellaneous concrete, like associated with fence posts and not light poles, excuse me, stop sign posts, things like that, that those were included in the cost of the sign, and they didn't get to charge us extra for things like that. We made some concessions on if there were underground issues that require them to adjust light pole locations, that would be handled in the field, and that there would be no additional charge for those issues. And we added the light poles as a required shop drawing submittal. Excuse me. I think that's basically it. There were a couple of additional items added to the base bid, construction signs and solid blue handicap painting lines. Again, just to clarify some things that we saw were missing in the documents. And then the drawings were updated, as I said earlier, related to the wall railings and the walls around the courthouse. There were a couple of water fitting changes that we made to accommodate Lebanon utilities. And that's addendum 2. More than you ever cared to know, for sure.
Well, I think it just touches on the level of detail that has gone, a lot of effort that's gone into all of this, so I really appreciate all the work there. Any further questions for Kevin concerning the addenda?
Kevin, how much of all that, did that change or lower the price any, or?
Well, we couldn't quantify that necessarily. These were all addendums that were issued prior to bid opening.
Oh,
so
okay.
I can't really, other than we knew what the deduct was to take the contractor's alternate schedule, these were just clarifications for the most part, and then there were a couple of legitimate, call them oversights in the construction plans that got cleaned up with these things. That's just, you're in the business, but for those that don't know, I mean, there is no perfect set of construction plans. There's always issues, and the contractors in this process, in any process, do a good job of pointing those things out for us and helping us to get the plans as tight as possible so that there is fairness across all levels of bidding.
I will comment, I was, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, has lighting across the street overhead, and it's really neat. It goes down about 2 blocks, and then it goes down 3 or 4 blocks in a T, and so I'm really excited to see what ours is going to look like, because I haven't been down there when they're on, but I just was down there last week and noticed that, and I know they do a lot of functions downtown, and I thought this is really cool because they got a couple new little establishments.
Yep.
So,
Looking forward to it. So.
Any other questions for Kevin?
No?
So Rob, just looking for two separate motions, one to approve the addenda and then one to approve the final contract?
Yeah, I think you could do it all in one, authorizing, motion to approve the final contract, which includes the addenda.
Okay.
And then authorizing you to execute and finalize the contract.
Okay. So motion to approve the final contract as amended and giving the mayor the ability to execute that contract on this board's behalf.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. So moved. Dick, we have motions. Is there a second?
Second.
That'll include the addenda
Yeah.
that Kevin.
Yep. Motion and a second from Bill.
Yeah.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that's approved. Thank you very much. Kevin, that was a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
Mayor, and the board, Kevin, do you want to talk about the county agreements too? That would be the.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. I intended to do that. Thanks for catching that for me. So the Redevelopment Commission executed an agreement between themselves and the county commissioners, an interlocal agreement that covered the construction of this project, specifically because a significant portion of the project is on county-owned property. The property lines for the courthouse essentially go out to about midway between in the middle of the parking spaces that surround the courthouse. So we will be reconstructing the pavements on those parking areas. We will be reconstructing the sidewalks, and of course, we'll be reconstructing the current concrete retaining wall and replacing that with a limestone retaining wall. So we had to put this agreement in place to allow us to do work on their property. A couple of things that agreement allowed them to do was, one, to be able to have their legal counsel and their bond counsel review our construction package. When I say that, I'm referring to all bond issues, the construction specifications, the bidding process. So they had the county attorney, Bob Clutter, review that project, as well as their bond counsel, which is Ice Miller. So we do have a couple of invoices that have been submitted underneath that interlocal agreement for those fees. And then that agreement allowed them to enter into other consulting contracts to ensure that the project was built to specifications, especially since it's on their property. So there are two contracts that they have executed, and they are one for earth explorations that will be installing a couple of seismograph stations around the courthouse, just to make sure there's not too much vibration around the courthouse that could possibly crack plaster or things of that nature. The other one is for a standard civil engineering firm by the name of Beam, Longest, and Neff to review our construction documents for any issues that they might have on their property.
Specifically pertaining to their property, correct?
Protecting their property?
No, specifically related to their property.
Yes, specifically related to their property.
Okay.
So, Rob, I'm not for sure on the motion we need to have executed.
Yeah, I think for the record, again, as Kevin indicated, this was all part of the project agreement that was entered into with the county. And if this board recalls, we entered into an agency agreement that was executed between the authority and the Board of Works that would authorize this board to manage the construction, essentially, of the lease rental project until completion. And that even though these are the costs, I think formally we'd just like a motion to approve these contracts, but they are going to be paid out of the bond issuance. And so I think it's just a formal procedure, even though arguably, again, this has been approved, but these were two separate contracts that the Board of Commissioners just recently approved. So we thought it prudent just to bring it to this board's attention.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have any concerns at all about the seismograph?
It's a little bit of it's protection, right? It's maybe a little more protection than would be required, I guess. But at the end of the day, they're going to have these studies in place to make sure that nothing does happen to the courthouse, and none of us want anything to happen to the courthouse. And hopefully, I think this would work in our favor so that if anything did happen, hopefully anything coincidental that might happen, because Indiana is a high fault activity state, might not necessarily be related to construction activity. I really don't have any concern that our construction activity will shake the courthouse so much that it would be damaged. So from that perspective, I think the seismographs is a little bit of belt and suspenders. But also at the end of the day, if we're able to prove, no, that wasn't us, we've got the geotechnical data to prove it, that there was no significant seismic activities caused by our construction, then that will protect us in case something unforeseen should happen.
And then I think also, just for the record, though, the city will have a separate builder's risk policy. Okay. For this project too, so that to the extent that there would be a claim or something, that we would hopefully be able to address it through that, as well as Kevin and his team, and we're working on post bid items, construction contract with White Construction to make sure their insurance and bonds are in place, and then and to have the appropriate additional insureds in.
Okay. Now, this may sound a little crazy, but shouldn't we have someone take a video of the courthouse inside and out to protect us from this point on? Just in case there's something already there and they come back and say this was happening, just to protect us. Like we do on most, like we did on most construction sites, we have them do a video beforehand, so we make sure everything's put back. We've taken care of everything before. I was at the county when the last county renovation. Okay, there was a lot of things found in that county renovation then that nobody knew was there, and a lot of things, different things happened and so forth, and just to protect us just to make sure for us and make sure for them that anything that did happen was either there before or whatever. And then something like that we could share with them as well, that, this is the video that we've taken, just to make sure. I don't know.
Well, Rob, I'm just thinking if something were to go wrong, they would file a claim against our insurance policy that we're taking out for this, right? So it really would be on the county to prove that it was the construction that caused that, right? Not the city.
Right.
But I don't know.
It'd be through our insurance.
To Dick's point, I believe our specifications require this, and I don't know any contractor that doesn't just do this as a matter of practice. Okay. The contractor will go property by property and videotape the downtown, especially in a historic project like this or in a historic setting like this. We did it on East Street. We've done it on every project that I've really ever been involved in. There's typically a pre-construction video taken, just so that when someone says, hey, you cracked this plaster, or you cracked this sidewalk, or there's this crack going up my brick wall that didn't used to be there, we can say, well, it was there on May 1st when we started construction. So okay. It's just sort of standard practice. So I think we will do that regardless. What I would say is I don't know that we would necessarily go into buildings and do that. And we'd have to get permission, obviously, to go into the courthouse if we wanted to inspect that.
So far, are you doing okay with that, Dick? Yeah. Okay. Is that just a motion to approve those contracts, Rob? Sorry, go ahead, Tanya.
I have one item on we're trying to work it out, but Brian Colton wasn't aware of the 33.2, I think. Is that the amount for earth exploration? And nor the 10,000 for Ice Miller. So we're trying to figure out where that money's coming from, because it's not part of the bond.
We spoke to him on the When was that? On
We
Thursday?
spoke with him, I think, Thursday. We weren't aware of this either. Obviously, the interlocal agreement, we're aware of what's in there. It gave them the ability to hire consultants, engineering consultants, if they felt they needed to protect county property. But we didn't know they were going to do this until we were actually, well, the morning of the commissioners' meeting where they executed the interlocal agreement. So the earth explorations contract, I think you're right, that
33.2.
Yeah, 33,200.
And then 10.
The Beam Longus and Neff
1,000.
contract was, yeah, exactly 10,000. So, yeah, we were,
So where am I to pay that from? Do we know that?
You don't, at this point, it's coming out of the bonds, so it's
yes, out of bond proceeds.
Yeah. But, Tanya, and my understanding is there have been a lot of discussions going back and forth with Humbaugh and Kevin and looking at some of the contingency that's in the agreements as well. Okay. And at least before the meeting, I understand that all the proceeds would be paid from cost of issuance from the bonds. And then if not, then we'll have to address it, at a later date. But this is just, I mean, by contract, we need to approve these. This is part of the, the counties, they want this insurance, if you will, and to do it. So.
At the end of the day, this is going to come out of our contingency line item that are in the bond proceeds. I know the bond proceeds are just a bulk dollar amount, but per our schedule, our construction cost estimate, we've got things like the construction contract, an 8% contingency on the construction contract, and then the construction inspection services. So that 8% of the $7,193,000 of the construction contract, that's unfortunately where this is going to have to come out of. I hate to start the job spending $43,000 of our contingency, but we don't have much other choice because, to Tanya's point, we did not know this was. We did not know the extent of what was coming at us until we signed the agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, which is,
I mean, those invoices are going to the county, and then they're just going to pass those along to us.
correct.
Yes.
Okay? Okay.
Yep. Okay. And Rob, so you believe we do need to formally approve those contracts?
Yeah, I think it would be prudent. These are separate and just to do it.
Okay. Separate contracts or one motion is fine?
We don't, I think the Beam Longus and Neff is essentially a line item not to exceed $10,000 fee. We don't have a contract for them. They just did a formal, that's in a.
It's a task work order. They have an existing contract for plan reviews with Beam Longus and Neff.
Okay, so.
Is there paperwork or something? I mean, I don't have anything. I mean, I don't even know what we're
I can send you that.
motioning.
Well, they haven't invoiced this yet because they're not, the photographs aren't there yet.
Right, there's nothing to pay.
There's nothing to pay yet. It's just we're agreeing that the county, we're just acknowledging the county entered these agreements and there could be future bills coming to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just acknowledging as part of our interlocal agreement that we will pay them when they send that to us.
Yeah, it's two agreements, one from Beam Longus and Neff in the amount of $10,000.
Okay.
And then the other is from Earth Exploration in the amount of $33,200.
Okay,
And again,
I understand.
the intent is this is all under the Board of Works Agency Agreement as part of it, and it'd just be authorizing it, and at this point, these will be paid out of the bond proceeds.
Okay.
Okay. So let's do the first motion to approve the Beam Longus and Neff, the middle from the county, when it's received.
In amount not to exceed.
In amount not to exceed $10,000.
I so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's approved. And now motion to approve the earth exploration agreement with the county.
So moved.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Not happy about it, but we have to do it because it's part of the agreement. So, okay. Any other new business or old business come before the council or board?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to claims, and we're going to entertain a motion.
Do you have anything else, Kevin?
Do we need a specific motion on the builder's risk insurance, or is that included in the execution?
No, I think that's part of the contract agreement, just again authorizing, the mayor will finalize everything. And I've, just for the board's sake, and the mayor knows this, but I've spoken to Dan Lamar, and that's in process.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Kevin. So would go on to the claims now, and would entertain a motion?
Make a motion, we pay the claims.
We have a motion to pay the claims in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, claims are approved. And we entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we are adjourned. The city council meeting will begin at 7:15.